Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to AITA Chronicles, where Reddit's wildest drama gets the spotlight it deserves. Today's episode, let's just say, chaos doesn't even begin to cover it. We've got a teenage lie that nearly ruined a man's life, stepkids making terrifying threats, and a boss who thinks random house visits are totally normal. Oh, and there's also a guy who just wanted his sandwich back, and somehow ended up the villain. These stories go from outrageous to straight up jaw-dropping. So whether you're chilling, working, or hiding from your own family drama, this is the one to stick around for. And hey, we're almost at 10K subscribers, so hit that like, tap that bell, and let's get into it. Am I the asshole for telling my brother-in-law I will never forgive his daughter and I have no intention of ever having her near my family? This isn't some petty family spat over holiday dinner plans or someone forgetting a birthday. No, this is serious. This is about a lie, a dangerous, reputation-shattering, soul-crushing lie, and the fallout that ripples through an entire family like wildfire. The writer, 30 years old, is a new mom, a wife, and someone who from the outside seems to be surrounded by a relatively close-knit family. Her older sister, her brother-in-law Joe, and Joe's daughter Kelly has all blended together over time. It wasn't perfect, but they were trying. And then came the day that changed everything. The writer hosted a small family birthday gathering. Nothing big, nothing crazy, just close relatives. Her sister and her husband came with their kids. Her parents were there. It was meant to be a sweet celebration and a chance for everyone to bond with the writer's 6-month-old baby boy. Everything felt normal, calm, happy. Until days later, Kevin, her 14-year-old nephew, showed up at her door, and what he had to say. It was the kind of thing that stops your heart cold. He told the writer that Kelly, Joe's 15-year-old daughter, had been telling people at school that she walked in on the writer's husband in the bathroom with his organ out, that he had just walked in casually exposed, like it was no big deal, that she saw everything. It was a loaded accusation. One sentence, and her husband's entire life could have been ripped apart. And the thing is, it wasn't true. The writer knew it, in her bones. And still, she had the presence of mind to do something most people wouldn't. She gathered the entire family, parents, sister, niece, nephew, husband, and confronted it head on. That's when the truth came out. Kelly, crying, admitted she made it all up. Just a lie. Just a sick, attention-grabbing story she told her friends because she felt like the inexperienced one. Her girlfriends were all talking about things they've done, and she felt left out. So she invented a moment, one that painted an innocent man as a predator just to fit in. And let's be clear, this wasn't just some harmless teenage gossip. This lie, even whispered once to the wrong adult, could have ended the writer's husband's job, his freedom, his entire existence. All it takes is one teacher reporting it, one parent calling the police, one rumor too far. So yeah, the writer snapped. And honestly, who wouldn't? She didn't hold back. She called Kelly out a disgusting POS, a psychopath, words fueled by fury, fear, and the sudden realization of how close her family came to the edge of a cliff. She told everyone there and then, Kelly will never be near her family again. And true to her word, the consequences came hard and fast. Kevin, her nephew, told the school the truth. Her sister and Joe notified the principal so that the lie wouldn't be mistaken for fact by any authority. Her parents cut Kelly off, refused to host her again, and her sister, terrified for her own son's safety, sent Kelly to live full-time with her biological mom. Because here's the reality that no one wants to say out loud. If Kelly was willing to lie like that about an adult man, how long before she says something about her own stepbrother? This wasn't about being cruel, it was about protection. But of course, there's Joe, the father, the flinner. The writer makes it clear, Joe's not the villain here. He's a good man, loyal, family-oriented, and now he's heartbroken. He's caught in a nightmare where his daughter's actions have ripped apart his family, but he's still trying to hold on. He begs the writer for forgiveness for his daughter's sake. He wants Kelly to apologize, to make it right. He thinks that maybe, just maybe, if the writer forgives her, the others might follow. But the writer? She shuts it down. She tells him the truth. This isn't something you move past. It's not a dumb teenage mistake. It's not just a phase. It's a lie that could have ruined a man, a father, a husband. She tells him she won't forgive Kelly. She can't. Because trust, once broken this deeply, doesn't come back with a half-hearted apology. And she stands firm. She supports her sister. She protects her nephew. She keeps her baby and her husband far away from the girl who almost destroyed everything. And now she wonders, was she too harsh? Was she the asshole, at least toward Joe? Here's the truth. No, she's not the asshole. She's a mother, a wife, and a protector. And when someone threatens your family, even with just words, you don't take chances. Could Joe be hurting? Absolutely. Is he in a horrible position, watching his daughter be cast out for something he didn't do? No doubt. But the writer didn't punish Joe. She made a boundary, a non-negotiable one, and she made it for the right reasons. Because sometimes one lie is all it takes. So what do you think? Would you have forgiven her? Would you let Kelly near your family again? Or would you do exactly what the writer did? Draw the line, no matter how messy it gets. Drop your thoughts below. This one's not just about blame, it's about consequences, loyalty, and just how far you'd go to protect the people you love. Stick around because these stories, they're as real and raw as it gets. Am I the asshole for not telling my friend she was getting fired and that I saved her job, which led to her getting super fired? Sometimes, trying to save someone from drowning only ends with you both getting pulled under. The writer works in a company where turnover isn't uncommon. People come in, prove themselves, or don't, and management moves on. No sentiment, no second chances. That's just business. Now here's where it gets messy. The writer doesn't just work there. They also recommended their best friend's girlfriend for a job. Not because they were close, not because they believed in her, but because of loyalty to Jeremy, the best friend. Let's get this clear. The writer wouldn't have hired her if not for Jeremy. That's already a red flag. But the writer gave her a shot, vouched for her, and got her in the door. From there, it was up to her to prove she belonged. And at first, she tried. No one's calling her lazy. She was showing up, putting in the work, technically doing the job. But here's the kicker. Personality matters. And hers? It was a full-on disaster. The woman couldn't mesh with her supervisor. She clashed with coworkers. She left behind a trail of tension wherever she went. And in a workplace where chemistry is just as important as competence, that's a death sentence. She was in her 90-day probationary window when the decision was made. No big drama, no major infraction. She was just not a fit. The company was letting go of dozens of new hires that day, and she was one of them. In another universe, she would have quietly been dismissed. She might have even reapplied later. It would have been a soft landing. But here's where the writer steps in. Knowing how much she and Jeremy were struggling financially, the writer pulls a move most people wouldn't dare attempt. They volunteer to transfer her to their team, just to keep her employed. No fanfare, no pat on the back, just trying to help behind the scenes. But here's the thing. The writer never told her that she was about to get fired, never told her this was a rescue mission. Why? Because they didn't want to freak her out. They didn't want to make her feel like a charity case. And maybe, just maybe, they thought a fresh start would fix things. Spoiler, it didn't. On the new team, she was the same person. Hardworking? Sure. Technically skilled? Yes, but unbearable to work with. She rubbed everyone the wrong way. Constant friction, constant attitude. Her energy tanked morale across the board. Even the writer's own supervisor questioned why she was brought in. This wasn't sabotage, this was her own behavior catching up with her. Again. And here's the worst part. By saving her once, the writer accidentally made things worse. Instead of quietly getting let go, she ended up super fired, blacklisted, not eligible for rehire. Her name is now stamped on the company's do not bring back list, all because she thought she was doing fine, because no one warned her otherwise. And now, she's furious. She says if the writer had just told her what was going on, she would have changed her attitude. Played nicer, toned it down. Maybe, maybe not. Because here's the ugly truth. Some people don't change until it's too late. And even if she could have turned it around, that doesn't excuse how she acted when she didn't think she had to. Now Jeremy, her boyfriend and the writer's best friend, is caught in the middle. He understands, but that doesn't stop the tension. And the writer, they're left wondering if trying to help only made everything worse. So let's break this down. Did the writer owe her the full truth? Should they have said, hey, heads up, you're about to be fired, and I'm the only reason you're still here? Maybe. Transparency could have saved both of them a lot of trouble. But it's not like the writer set her up to fail. They tried to give her a second chance she didn't even know she needed. But she didn't take it. She stayed the same. She burned bridges until there were none left standing. So, is the writer the asshole for not telling her the full story? No. Not even close. They tried to help. They risked their own reputation to keep her afloat. They didn't owe her that, but they did it anyway. And while the silence may have hurt her long term, it was never meant to be cruel. It was meant to protect her. She just didn't meet the moment. What do you think? Should the writer have been more upfront, or was the silence justified given how far they went to save her? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one's not just about work. It's about loyalty, self-sabotage, and how far you go to save someone who's already pulling themselves under. Stick around for more real, dramatic Am I the Asshole stories, only here at AITA Chronicles, where the drama's raw and the truths hit hard. Am I the asshole for telling my neighbor his wife's early bedtime isn't my problem? All right, this one. This one is not just about noise complaints. This is about power trips. It's about grown adults treating their neighbors like punching bags and then playing victim when someone finally stands their ground. Let's talk about the writer, a 24-year-old man just trying to build a life with his fiancée. First rental, new chapter, excited for what's to come, including a baby on the way. It's supposed to be one of those golden moments in life, right? New place, new beginnings. But of course, life has a way of tossing in a wild card. And in this case, that wild card came in the form of two people, neighbors in their mid-50s, who apparently believed the entire world should revolve around their personal bedtime schedule. It all started just 3 weeks after moving in. The writer and his fiancée tried to do the right thing. They weren't the kind of people to throw wild parties and act like the block belongs to them. They went to their neighbors with kindness and transparency to let them know they'd be hosting a small housewarming. No big crowd, music off by 11, and everything wrapped up before 12:30 a.m. on a Saturday. And how did the neighbor respond? The wife cut him off mid-sentence to complain about afternoon music being too loud because her husband was recovering from a stroke. And look, of course, the writer was respectful. He apologized, said they had no idea, offered well wishes, and still tried to reassure them it wouldn't be a disturbance. But from that point forward, it was war. Over the next year, the writer and his fiancée were put through a slow, grinding campaign of harassment. You name it. They banged on the walls during completely normal activities. Vacuuming, blow-drying hair, playing music in the middle of the day. Too loud. The kind of noise that happens in any home was suddenly treated like criminal activity. And let's not ignore the part that crosses from petty to dangerous. They'd intentionally rile up the couple's dogs in the backyard. Deliberately aggravating animals just to get a rise out of someone, that's unhinged behavior. Then it escalated even further. They threw stuff over the fence. Something ended up making one of the dogs sick enough for an emergency vet visit. Now, there wasn't concrete proof of who tossed what, but you don't need a detective to connect the dots. These people were becoming a legitimate threat. Fast forward to the day, everything came to a head. The writer was doing DIY work in the nursery. They're preparing for their baby. That's real-life adult stuff. He deliberately waited until midday to start, out of respect. But then he had to run to a hospital appointment. Again, real life, not just leisure, and that set him back. So when he got back home, he picked the tools back up to finish what he started. We're talking 7:30 to 8 p.m., still bright out, hours away from noise restrictions. Not unreasonable at all. But then, cue the angry neighbor stomping over at 7:55 p.m. This guy comes over with rage in his voice, saying his wife goes to bed at 6 p.m. and the writer is bang out of order. Seriously? 6? That's when most people are just starting dinner or settling into a show. And this man expects everyone around him to pause their entire lives so his wife can sleep at sundown like a Disney princess? The writer, patient as ever, apologized, explained he'd only be 10 more minutes. 10 minutes. But nope, the neighbor doubled down, started getting aggressive, started puffing his chest. That's when the writer, clearly fed up but still calm, said what needed to be said. "I'm sorry, but your wife's early bedtime isn't my problem." And honestly, he's right. She could wear earplugs, close the windows, use white noise, move bedrooms if it's that serious. But instead, they've decided to go full-blown hostile. That's when the neighbor makes a threat. "I'll wake you up at 4 a.m. And the writer, he gives him the most iconic line possible: "Knock yourself out, mate." Cue the rage. The neighbor squares up to him, gets in his face, and says, "You'll regret that. I'm going to make your lives a living hell." Now let's pause. This isn't just about noise anymore. This is about safety. We're talking about a pregnant partner, 2 dogs that have already been targeted, and now a verbal threat with a history of violence. Other neighbors have warned them. This guy's kicked someone's cat before. There's a pattern here. But the writer, he's not playing around. He's not waiting for something to happen. He puts up cameras, files a police report, gets the housing association involved. He's doing everything right, documenting it all, because at the end of the day, he's got a family to protect. His fiancée, his future child, his dogs, his peace. So now we're here asking, is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. This isn't even a close call. He showed restraint, patience, understanding. He tried to communicate, he followed the rules, he compromised more times than anyone should be expected to. But at some point, you stop bending, you stand up. This man is trying to build a life, and he's being met with petty rage from someone who sees control as a birthright. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're right. And just because someone's sick doesn't give them a free pass to terrorize the people around them. Let's hear it. Y'all, what would you do if you were in the writer's shoes? Ever had a neighbor like this? Or been forced to choose between politeness and peace? Drop it in the comments and let's talk. Because when it comes to protecting your home and your family, you don't owe anybody silence. Am I the asshole for telling my boss I'm not comfortable with him randomly visiting my house? All right, this story? This one doesn't play out like your usual workplace drama. This one starts as something that seems innocent and then just quietly slips into something uncomfortable, something unsettling, and let's be real, something that flat out crosses the line. So let's get into it. The writer, a hardworking single mom in her mid-30s, is just trying to hold it all down. She's got a 14-year-old daughter, 2 dogs, and a job in marketing that she's been working at for the past 6 months. Not years. Months. Still pretty new, still figuring out the dynamic, the culture, the people. Her boss? Early 40s, maybe. No wedding ring, but she's not exactly clocking his dating status. Why should she? This is work. Professional life. Boundaries. You clock in, you do your thing, and you go home to your peace. But then, something changes. At first, it was subtle. The boss didn't want to talk at work anymore. No casual office chats, no calls during business hours. Nah, instead, he starts showing up to the writer's house, in the evenings, like they're old friends or something. And here's the thing. The first couple of times. The writer tried to be chill, tried to not read too much into it. You don't want to cause a scene, right? Especially when it's your boss. You give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's unconventional, maybe he's just weird. But that doubt starts to fade when the pattern sets in. He's not doing this with the others. Her coworkers confirmed it. He doesn't swing by their places after hours. He doesn't randomly park outside their homes uninvited. He doesn't call them asking for spontaneous late-night chats. No. This meeting style of his, it's got a very specific target. Her. So one night, the writer looks outside, and guess what? This man's car is parked right at the front of her driveway, just sitting there, watching, waiting. Then he calls and casually asks if she's up for a talk. She says no. To his credit, he drives off. But that doesn't undo what just happened. Let's not forget, she's alone with her daughter. Two dogs or not, there is no version of this where that situation feels okay. So finally, the next morning, the writer does what a lot of people would be too scared to do. She calls him, and she politely but firmly tells him she's not comfortable with him visiting her house anymore. What does he say? He tells her, "This is just how I generally do it." Yeah, really? Because everyone else in the company seems to be getting regular emails, Zooms, and office meetings. No one else is getting the pop-in treatment. But somehow she gets the late night driveway conference experience. She's creeped out. And who wouldn't be? But even after standing up for herself, the writer still doubts her instincts. So she texts a coworker, someone she's close with, just to check in, just to make sure she's not being overly sensitive. And that person calls her a coward. A coward. Let's talk about that. What's cowardly about setting a boundary? What's cowardly about saying I don't feel safe in my own home when a man who holds power over my job is suddenly parked outside without warning? What's cowardly about protecting your peace, your kid, your space? Because let's get real here. This isn't about one awkward visit. It's about power. It's about how men in authority sometimes blur the line between work and personal life and expect women, especially younger women, to just go along with it out of fear. Fear of being seen as difficult, fear of losing your job, fear of being labeled dramatic. This isn't drama. This is survival. The writer doesn't owe her boss after-hours access to her life. Her house isn't an extension of the office. She's not working remotely when she's in her pajamas, unwinding after taking care of her daughter. And that coworker? Yeah, they can miss her with that coward nonsense. Because the real bravery is in speaking up when your gut tells you something isn't right. So now we're asking, am I the asshole for setting a boundary and telling her boss to stop coming to her house? Absolutely not. Not even a little. The only thing the writer is guilty of is being too patient for too long. Because trust me, that kind of behavior, it's not just unprofessional, it's manipulative, it's invasive. And if left unchecked, it only gets worse. So let's talk about it. Have you ever had a boss cross the line like this? Have you ever had to risk your job just to reclaim your peace? Drop your stories in the comments. I want to hear them. Because no one should feel unsafe in their own home. Not for a job, not for a paycheck, not for anyone. Boundaries aren't rude, they're necessary. Am I the asshole for reporting threats made by my husband's kids and their mom to CPS and then leaving because I'm pregnant? This one? It's not about drama, it's about survival. This isn't a petty squabble or a misunderstanding. This is real fear, real danger, real consequences. And it all starts with one woman, the writer, trying to build a family in a house already full of hostility. Let's go back. The writer, 30 years old, has been married to her husband, 33, for 2 years. They've been together for nearly 5. The guy has 2 kids from a previous marriage, ages 11 and 13. And let's be clear, she was never the other woman. The marriage was over years before she entered the picture. But even so, from the moment she moved in, his ex made it clear, shh, she wasn't welcome. The ex didn't want her around the kids. She didn't want a stepmom in the mix. And she made sure the kids knew that too. At first, it didn't work. The writer managed to get along with the children. It wasn't perfect, but it was manageable. They even went to therapy to make things smoother. And for a while, it worked. But then came the news that changed everything. The writer got pregnant, and suddenly, all that shaky peace shattered. The kids didn't take it well, and the ex? She poured gasoline on the fire. Whatever control or maturity had been holding things together vanished. The children, who once tolerated her, now turned hostile. Not passive-aggressive, not cold. No, straight up violent. They screamed at her, cursed her out, told her to get out. One even told her to get an abortion. Pause on that for a second. A 13-year-old child telling a pregnant woman, someone they used to coexist with, to abort her baby. Where does a child even get that kind of language? That kind of hate? Spoiler, they get it from home, from their other parent, from someone fueling that rage behind the scenes. And it gets worse. The kids showed her the texts they had with their mother. Texts where the ex was clearly egging them on, where there were actual threats to harm the writer and her unborn child. And then it escalated again. The threats weren't just words anymore, they became real. The 11-year-old tried to act on those threats. Yes, a literal child tried to make good on what they'd been saying. The situation wasn't abstract anymore. It wasn't, oh, they're just being dramatic. This was dangerous. It was real. So what does the husband do? He disciplines the kids, but his response is basically, don't worry, they won't really do it. And that's when the writer knew he didn't get it, because he wasn't the one with a growing life inside him. He wasn't the one being targeted. He wasn't the one staring into the eyes of children who might actually try again. And when she asked him how he planned to protect her, how he'd ensure it wouldn't happen again, he had no answers, no plan, not even a vague reassurance, just more empty promises. So she made the choice he wouldn't. She reported everything to CPS. And then she left. She packed up, walked away, took her baby, and moved in with her parents. Because no matter how much she loved her husband, no matter how complicated things were, she was not going to gamble with her child's life. But now, she's the one getting blamed. Her husband is angry, says she went too far. His parents are even worse, telling her she should have worked it out, kept it private, picked a safer option. But what safer option? When you're being threatened in your own home, when a child tries to hurt you and their other parent is actively encouraging it, what exactly is safe? What is there to work out? Let's be real. If a stranger sent those kinds of threats, or if some kid at school acted out like that, people would lose their minds. But because it's family, everyone expects the writer to just take it, to suck it up, to co-parent with violence. That's not being a mother, that's being a target. So, is the writer the asshole for going to CPS and getting out? Absolutely not. She is the only one who took this seriously. The only one who understood that threats from children, especially when fueled by a toxic adult, are still real threats. And walking away, that wasn't weakness. That was strength. That was choosing survival over sentiment. That was protecting her child when no one else would. So what do you think? Did the writer make the right call, or should she have given her husband more time to figure it out? Let's talk about it in the comments, because when a house becomes a war zone, silence is the most dangerous weapon of all. Stick around for more intense, real-world Am I the Asshole stories, only on AITA Chronicles, where we don't hold back. Would I be the asshole for ending my marriage because I want bio kids when I have two stepkids who already lost their mom? All right, this one's heavy. We're not just talking about arguments over chores or clashing parenting styles. This is about grief, hope, and a dream so deeply rooted that it touches the very core of who someone is. It's not petty. It's not shallow. It's not a whim. It's about motherhood. The writer, a 31-year-old woman, didn't walk into her relationship with lies or unrealistic expectations. From the beginning, she made it clear. Having biological children was a non-negotiable, not just a nice to have, not a maybe, a deal breaker. And she didn't spring that on her husband 2 years in. She told him from the start. It was part of the foundation of their relationship. Her husband, a widower with 2 young children, said he understood. He said he was on board, that yes, he was open to more children, that he wanted that future too. So the writer dove into love, into motherhood, into stepmotherhood, and into trying to conceive, naturally at first, then with some medical help. And when that didn't work, the next step was IUI, a process that, according to their doctors, had a high chance of success. That should have been hopeful news. Instead, her husband pumped the brakes. Now suddenly he's saying that the 2 kids they already have should be enough, that spending money on fertility treatment doesn't sit right with him, that they should just stop, accept, move on. But what about the deal breaker? What about the promises made before rings were exchanged? When the writer stands her ground, when she says, no, this hasn't changed, he hits her where it hurts. He accuses her of not loving the children enough, of not being satisfied, of destroying the family if she dares walk away from a promise that he is the one breaking. Let's pause here, because this is where things get twisted. The writer is a stepmom. and she's embraced that. But let's be real, being a stepmom when the biological mom has passed away is a whole different kind of terrain. It's filled with grief, loyalty to a memory, and invisible walls that no amount of love can fully tear down. No matter how loving or devoted the writer is, she will always be stepmom. And that's not an insult, it's a truth. She doesn't want to replace their mom. She's not trying to. But she does want to experience motherhood in her own right, to carry a child, raise a baby that she brought into this world, not instead of, but in addition to the life she already shares with her stepkids. And yet, her husband and his family come down on her like she's some kind of monster. They say she's selfish, that being a real mom means giving up your dream for the sake of someone else's children. They tell her that walking away would mean the kids lose a second mother. But let's not pretend this is black and white, because here's what no one seems to be saying. This woman has been honest, transparent, respectful, and she's still being painted as the villain. She even saved her own money for this. She was prepared emotionally and financially. She didn't demand her husband foot the bill, but he's shutting the door anyway, telling her that trying for a child is selfish, that wanting a biological connection is somehow a betrayal. So let's call it what it is. The writer is being guilt-tripped into surrendering her dream. And that's not love. That's emotional manipulation. Because when someone promises you something that's core to your identity and then tries to shame you for still wanting it, that's not compromise, that's control. So, would the writer be the asshole for walking away from this marriage? No, not even close. She'd be a woman making the hardest choice of her life, standing in the storm of other people's judgments, choosing not to betray herself in the process. Because the truth is, sometimes love isn't enough when the visions of the future no longer match. Sometimes what we sacrifice for others becomes a slow form of erasing ourselves. And the writer, she's not willing to be erased. Let's hear it in the comments. Is wanting a biological child after years of caregiving selfish? When does honoring your own dream stop being acceptable? And can step parenting ever fully replace the desire to be a biological parent? This one cuts deep. Let's talk about it. Am I the asshole for pulling away from my parents because they always decide to break bad news on important days for me? Let me tell you right now, this story hurts. It hits a place a lot of us try not to look at too closely. That part where we start realizing the people who were supposed to protect us, sometimes they're the ones who cause the most lasting damage. The writer is 21 years old, the oldest of three, and what they've been carrying isn't just resentment. It's not some teenage grudge. This is years of quiet pain and emotional sabotage, masked as timing. Let's get into it. It all started at age 7. A time when most kids are trying to figure out multiplication and how to tie their shoes faster. The writer was excited. He landed the lead role in the school play. Huge moment, a spotlight kind of day, a memory maker. And 20 minutes before curtain call, his parents decide that's the perfect time to tell him that his great-grandma is dying. Not after the play, not the night before, not even earlier that morning. 20 minutes before he's supposed to step on stage. And what happened? The kid broke down in front of everyone, couldn't get a single line out. And you know what the worst part is? It was avoidable, completely unnecessary. They had known about her condition for days. It doesn't stop there. 2 years later, he's 9, fresh out of an important learning disabilities assessment, something that takes courage and vulnerability for a kid to go through. And right there on the ride home, they casually drop the bomb. Oh, by the way, Dad lost his job 3 weeks ago. We're making major life changes now. 3 weeks ago. And here's the thing. When you're that young and you're already grappling with being different because of a learning challenge, hearing your dad lost his job makes it personal. The writer admits he wondered if they blamed him, if maybe the cost of testing or he himself was just another burden. And you know what? That question doesn't leave a kid easily. Fast forward to age 10. His birthday party. Not the actual birthday, but the party. You'd think they'd want it to be special, fun, joyful. But nope. That morning, they casually tell him his dog, was put down 2 days ago. 2 days. And instead of being honest in the moment, they pretended the dog was just at the grandparents' house so he wouldn't be in the way. So he celebrates cutting cake and pretending, while the truth claws at him from behind a smile. At 15, when some teens are just starting to figure out who they are, he gets one hell of a birthday surprise. His parents announce they're getting divorced. That was the gift. Happy birthday. Here's emotional whiplash. And just when you think it has to stop, it gets worse. His graduation. That one day that's supposed to be about him. Years of work. Late nights, early mornings, studying, trying to prove himself, especially with learning challenges. And his mom waits until then, until the caps and gowns and photos and handshakes to tell him she has cancer. And not that she just found out. No, she'd known for 2 months. 2 months. But waited until the one day that was supposed to celebrate him. Over and over, the writer's milestones, his wins, his joys, are hijacked by sorrow, by crises, and not just coincidences, but calculated announcements, news held back for the right time, which somehow is always his time. So what did the writer do when he left for college? He did the only thing he could do. He walked away. He stopped calling, stopped visiting. He kept in touch with his siblings, daily even. But his relationship with his parents, he dropped that rope. And it wasn't out of spite. It was out of self-preservation, because some people don't realize the cost of emotional betrayal until they're out of the house and only breathing air that's their own. He missed Christmas. Summer. He found other ways to spend breaks. And when his parents noticed, they didn't confront it until they saw on Instagram that he'd put down roots elsewhere, with roommates, building his own life. Finally, they ask him, why? And he tells them, no sugar, no flattery, just the truth. You knew what you were doing. You didn't forget it was my birthday. You didn't forget I was about to go on stage. You didn't forget my graduation date. And you still chose those moments to drop the weight of your bad news on me. Repeatedly. For years. And what do his parents say? They call him petty. They think he should have brought it up earlier. But why should he have to be the emotional adult for them? Why should he be the one to teach them how to be thoughtful, sensitive, basic human beings? His siblings, they get it. They see the pattern, and they call it what it is: denial. That convenient family fantasy where the parents are always doing their best and you're the one who's too sensitive. But let's call it like it is. This isn't sensitivity. This is a kid who finally realized his milestones are not landing zones for other people's chaos. His joy isn't just a pause button for pain, and he deserves space, safety, respect. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. He's not petty. He's not overreacting. He's not avoiding hard conversations. He's reclaiming his life from people who've treated his happiness like background music to their bad news for years. And honestly, that takes strength. What do you think? Was the writer right to cut ties the way he did? Or is there ever a right time for bad news when the timing always seems so wrong? Drop your thoughts below and don't hold back, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is protect your peace. Am I the asshole for not going to my dad's house in an emergency where his 5-year-old stepdaughter was left at home on her own? Let's be real, this isn't your typical, oops, I forgot to water someone's plants kind of emergency. This is the kind of family mess that simmers just below the surface until something explodes. And when it does, the only thing left standing is the cold, hard truth about loyalty, broken trust, and emotional survival. The writer, they're 17. And trust me, this age isn't the sweet in-between people pretend it is. This is the age where you're stuck, old enough to see everything clearly, but not old enough to break free from it. And at the center of it all, a dad who broke the writer's family. Let's not dance around it. He cheated, stepped out on their mom, and tried to build something new with the woman he left her for. That's already a grenade thrown into a kid's world. But what makes it worse? He expects the writer to play happy family with the pieces he shattered. Now let's get into the chaos. The dad's new wife came with 2 daughters, a 14-year-old from her first marriage and a 5-year-old from an affair that ended that marriage. It's a tangled web, one where no one's truly safe. The 14-year-old resents the 5-year-old. The 5-year-old doesn't understand why she's unloved. And the writer, they're just trying to survive the bi-weekly prison sentence of forced visitation. That's right, forced. Despite being nearly 18, the court has ordered a 50-50 split between homes. Even if the writer refuses, even if they're emotionally wrecked by it, their mom could lose custody if they don't show up at dad's house on schedule. So yeah, resentment's boiling. This isn't some moody teenager who doesn't like broccoli. This is a person trapped in a situation they didn't choose, being emotionally held hostage by a man trying to patch holes in a sinking ship with duct tape and guilt trips. Now comes the emergency. The writer finally gets to go back to their real home, mom's house. But chaos strikes. The 14-year-old bails to a friend's house, leaving the 5-year-old completely alone while both parents are at work. Panic erupts. Dad and his wife realize the 5-year-old is unsupervised, completely vulnerable. And who do they call? Not a neighbor, not an emergency contact, not a sitter. They call the writer, the same kid they've emotionally alienated, guilted, and dragged through this mess for years. Dad's on the phone. Go back to the house, please. The 5-year-old needs someone. The writer says, no. And right there, that's the moment this story takes a hard turn. Because the world loves to judge teenagers like they don't have scars, like they're not walking around with wounds from years of dysfunction. But the truth is, the writer wasn't wrong. Let's look at this straight. This isn't their sibling. This isn't their home. This isn't their responsibility. It's not on a 17-year-old to clean up a disaster caused by two adults who failed to check in with their own kids. It's not on the writer to suddenly be the savior for a child they were never asked to bond with. Could it be seen as cold? Sure. But let's not pretend this is just about a missed babysitting shift. This is the culmination of years of resentment, betrayal, emotional manipulation, and being forced to participate in a family that never considered how deeply fractured things really were. And yeah, the writer feels a little bad for the 5-year-old, because underneath all this chaos is a little girl, abandoned by her half-sister, forgotten by two negligent adults, and unknowingly at the center of a war she didn't start. But that's not the writer's burden to carry. Not when they've already been carrying the weight of a broken home, bruised trust, and court orders that treat them like a pawn. Dad blew up the family, then married the fire, and now he's surprised his oldest kid won't play fireman? Come on. The writer didn't ask to be in this situation. They didn't cause it. And they're not obligated to throw themselves into a burning building just to make everyone else feel better about their own mistakes. So, is the writer the asshole? No. They're a kid who drew a boundary. And in a world where too many people expect children, especially teenagers, to be more emotionally mature than the adults who raise them, that boundary is everything. What would you have done? Would you have gone back for the kid, or would you have drawn your own line in the sand? Let's talk about it. Because this one hurts. And it's not just about right or wrong, it's about survival. Am I the asshole for not wanting my boyfriend to come over anymore because he's too much of a clean freak? Okay, so this one starts off with a lie. Not the malicious kind, but the survival kind. The kind of lie you tell when you're suffocating and no one's listening. The writer told her boyfriend she'd be out of town this weekend. She wasn't. She just needed him out of her space, out of her face, out of her bubble. And you know what? I get it. Because when your own home starts to feel like a war zone, not of yelling, but of judgment, side eyes, and passive-aggressive sighs, that's when your peace becomes priceless. And that's exactly what's happening here. Let's break this down. The writer has two cats, adorable, cuddly, fur-shedding little roommates who have been part of her life long before Mr. Clean Freak ever stepped through the door. She's not careless. In fact, she vacuums 2 to 3 times a day. Do you know how exhausting that is? She's practically waging a full-blown war on cat hair daily. But no matter how much effort she puts in, her boyfriend will spot one single hair, and act like a biohazard's been released into the atmosphere. We're talking about someone who wakes her up in the middle of the night over a floating piece of cat fur. Seriously. Like it's a fire alarm going off. Like they're in some sterile NASA clean room. No good morning, no how'd you sleep. Just there's fur in the air. Fix it. That's not just obsessive, it's disrespectful. And this man, he wears black to her house. Black to a house with cats. And then complains when the fur sticks. That's like walking into a rainstorm and getting mad you got wet. But here's the real kicker. Every time he comes over, the cats, her babies, her family, the ones who live there, get banished, evicted from their own home because this guy can't handle seeing a paw print or a tail flicker across the floor. It's not just about cat fur. This isn't about lint rollers and vacuums. This is about control, about a guest acting like a king, and a girlfriend slowly shrinking inside her own walls. And when the person you're dating starts making your home feel like a place you can't relax in anymore, that's when things turn dark. So yeah, the writer lied. She told him she was going out of town. She canceled their weekend plans. Not to be cruel, but to breathe. To just sit on the couch with her cats, hair floating in the air, and not be judged for it. And now she's questioning herself. Is she being petty? Is she unreasonable? Is she the bad guy here? Let me make this real clear. Absolutely not. This man may have a clean house, but emotionally, he's leaving mess behind. She's exhausted. She's walking on eggshells in her own space, and all because her boyfriend can't adapt to a home that doesn't revolve around his compulsions. Let's be real. Relationships are about compromise, not colonization. You can't march into someone's life and treat their pets, their routines, and their comfort like it's all optional, like it's all something to be cleaned up or shut out. So here's the bottom line. Is the writer the asshole for wanting space, for reclaiming her sanctuary, for needing a damn break? No. Nope. Not even close. What she's asking for is simple. Respect for her home, for her pets, for her peace. And if someone can't bring that into the relationship without turning every weekend into a forced deep cleaning anxiety spiral, then maybe it's not a relationship worth preserving. So if you ever had someone turn your safe space into a source of stress, if you've ever had to lie just to get one day of peace, if you've ever been judged in your own home for just living, you're not alone and you're not the problem. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you have snapped earlier or tried to compromise more? What's the line between cleanliness and controlling behavior? Let's talk about it, because peace of mind, that's not negotiable. Update, am I the asshole for not wanting my boyfriend to come over anymore because he's too much of a clean freak? If the original post felt like tension quietly simmering just beneath the surface, then this update, this is where everything boils over. So our writer, already on edge, already exhausted, decided to carve out a moment of peace. She told her boyfriend she'd be out of town just to reclaim her space for the weekend. It wasn't a grand scheme. It wasn't vindictive. It was survival. A white lie whispered in desperation. Just a quiet plea for one weekend, one, without judgment, complaints, or fur patrol. But peace? That didn't last long because he showed up anyway. Uninvited, unannounced, unbelievable. The writer was curled up in her PJs, finally enjoying a calm afternoon. Her cats by her side, the house finally feeling like home again. And then bam, the knock at the door. It wasn't just unexpected, it was invasive. And sure enough, the minute he stepped inside, the complaints started. All the fur. How disgusting. Nothing had changed, not even a breath of grace. But then, it went from obnoxious to unforgivable. Her oldest cat, the sweet one, just being affectionate, hops on the couch like he always does. But instead of reacting like a decent human being, this man shoves the cat off the couch. Let that sink in, not a gentle nudge, not standing up and stepping away. He shoved her pet, her family, onto the floor. That cat didn't just lose balance. He hit the floor and bolted under the bed. Shocked, scared, heart pounding. And that was it. That was the breaking point. The writer snapped. She didn't hesitate. She kicked him out and told him they were done for good. And when he tried to say it was an accident, she didn't flinch, because there's no coming back from laying hands on her cat. Respect isn't optional, especially not in her own home. And here's where the story flips. She didn't just walk away, she found something deeper. Relief. Real, physical, emotional relief. The kind you feel in your chest, in your muscles, in your soul when a weight is finally lifted. No more whispering in her own space, no more tiptoeing around fur, no more flinching at every sigh or dramatic eye roll. The house is hers again. And her cats, back to lounging in the sun, free and unbothered, exactly how they should be. Let's be honest, this wasn't just about fur. This wasn't just about cats. It was about control, about a man who made her feel like a guest in her own home, about a woman who kept quiet for too long, hoping the guy she cared about would eventually adjust, understand, ease up. But he didn't. He invaded, he judged, and he crossed a line. So, is the writer the asshole for lying about a weekend trip just to get space? Was she wrong for drawing a line when her cat was hurt? Absolutely not. This was self-defense. Emotional, mental, spiritual self-defense. And honestly, she gave him far more chances than he ever deserved. So here's to the writer, who finally reclaimed her peace, who chose her cats, her sanity, and her space over someone who refused to respect any of it. And to anyone listening who's ever felt like they had to shrink themselves, rearrange their life, or exile their pets for the sake of keeping the peace, you are not the problem. Sometimes you've got to shut the door and mean it. Sometimes peace is louder than love, and sometimes the cleanest break is the messiest one you've been avoiding. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you ever had to kick someone out of your life for crossing a line like this? Do you think this breakup should have happened even sooner? Sound off. Let's talk. Because respect in a relationship, it should never come with conditions. Am I the asshole for telling my family I kept the gift I was going to give my sister since we're allowed to do that? This story? Oh, it's not just about a gift. This is about years of emotional gymnastics, lopsided parenting, and a kid who's finally had enough. This is not your average sibling squabble. This is what happens when favoritism gets treated like a family tradition, and the one kid who isn't the golden child finally snaps. Let's break this one down. The writer is a 17-year-old guy who's got a younger sister, 15 years old, who's not just the favorite. She's been crowned. Literally. We're talking about a girl nicknamed the light of our lives and the pampered princess by their own parents. Yeah, let that sink in. Now, growing up, the writer and his sister used to be close. Normal kid stuff, annoying, sure, but manageable. That is, until she turned 8 and decided birthdays and holidays were now her personal shopping spree, even if the gifts weren't meant for her. It all started with her claiming gifts she bought for the writer. But wait, it was his gift, bought by the parents, and she kept it. And that didn't just happen once. Oh no, this little habit became her thing. Birthday parties? She'd snatch back gifts she gave her friends. Sleepovers? She'd spend the group's snack money on just herself. Kids started blacklisting her from parties and even banning her from their homes. And did the parents stop her? Nope. They defended her like it was some kind of sport. The writer? He tried to talk to her. He told her the truth. She was being selfish. She cried. He got punished. Classic golden child manipulation. And anytime he tried to bring it up to the adults in charge, the parents gaslit him into silence, telling him he was insecure and misinterpreting things. Meanwhile, their daughter was running around claiming 4 of his Christmas presents without blinking. So this year, the writer decided he was done playing nice. He gets a part-time job, starts earning his own money. And his parents? They now expect him to buy everyone gifts, including the sister who steals them. He planned to get her a game he knew she'd like, but you know what? He decided to keep it. Not out of spite, not even out of malice, but out of principle. Because apparently that's the family rule, right? You're allowed to just keep the gifts you meant to give someone. So on her birthday, instead of wrapping it up and smiling through the resentment, the writer tells them all straight up, yeah, I kept it, since that's allowed. Boom. And that's when everything exploded. The sister starts crying. Again. The parents go full meltdown mode. They call him a bully. They say he's targeting her. And this part's just wild. They say it's incomprehensible for a boy to bully a girl, and the fact it's his sister makes it worse. But where was that energy when she was claiming his gifts, when she was spending group money on herself? when she was literally ending friendships by snatching presents back? Oh, right, she was just excited. She's younger, she didn't know better, she's their princess. The writer, grounded, but not defeated. He hides the game, protects it like it's sacred. Even hides his money to keep his parents from buying her a copy behind his back. And when she finally slinks into his room asking if he hates her, he doesn't sugarcoat a damn thing. He tells her straight, "Leave me alone." That's it. No more babysitting her feelings. No more pretending. No more enabling. Just brutal honesty, served cold. And the parents? They're still furious. They say he's punishing her for being young. But you know what this really is? This is a kid who's been neglected emotionally, who's been playing second fiddle in his own house for years, finally drawing a line in the sand. And for once, he's the one keeping the damn gift. So, is the writer the asshole? Hell no. He's not the asshole. He's the only one in that house making any sense. If anything, he's the only person who's treating that girl like she's capable of learning something. The parents, they failed them both. The sister gets no consequences. The writer gets gaslit into silence. And now at 17, he's doing what the adults won't, setting a boundary. Let's be honest, this family is a one-way street, and all the traffic flows to the princess. So to the writer, you're not the problem. You're the result of one. And to anyone out there dealing with family favoritism and golden child dynamics, you're not crazy for feeling hurt. You're not overreacting. You're just tired of being the one who's always expected to sacrifice for someone who's never held accountable. Sometimes keeping the gift is more than petty revenge. Sometimes it's the only piece you get. What do you think? Was the writer justified, or was there a better way to handle it? Let me know in the comments, and don't hold back, because sometimes the real family drama isn't about gifts. It's about finally choosing yourself. Am I the asshole for telling my wife I don't want any more kids? This one right here, it hits deep, because it's not just about babies or parenting or disagreements. It's about identity, purpose, pressure, and the kind of conversations that shake the foundation of a marriage. The writer, a 31-year-old husband and father of 3, isn't new to the parenting game. He and his wife, 28, already have 2 boys and one little girl, a full house, a busy life. Sports, schedules, tantrums, late nights, early mornings, you know the drill. Parenting isn't just a title, it's a grind. And somewhere along that journey, they both agreed, no more kids. They had the conversation, like responsible partners, like parents who were thinking ahead. No more bottles, no more diapers, no more sleepless nights. They had enough love for their 3, and that was supposed to be the end of the chapter. But then, TikTok happened. Late one night, out of nowhere, the writer's wife starts sending baby videos, talking nurseries, romanticizing the chaos of a newborn again. Now, this wasn't a hey, maybe someday conversation. It was a passionate pitch for a brand new baby. And the writer, he shut it down. Not out of cruelty, not because he doesn't love his wife, but because he meant what he said before. Because 3 kids is already a lot. Because money's tight with sports and school and just life. And because, let's be honest here, he just doesn't want another baby. That last part, that's what broke the silence. The writer told his wife straight up, even if I agreed, I wouldn't feel connected to that baby because deep down, I don't want it. Boom, there it was. Raw, honest, painful. His wife, she stormed off, locked herself in their bedroom, icy glares, silent treatments, heavy sighs in the dark. It wasn't just about the baby anymore. It was about feeling heard, and maybe about feeling wanted. So the writer turned to Reddit, not to bash her, not to shame her, but to try and understand, was he wrong? Was he heartless for holding the line on a decision they made together? But here's where this story really shifts, because after all the comments, after all the emotional buzz online, the writer goes home, and instead of letting the tension build, he grabs his wife's hand, and they go on a walk. Yeah, a walk. Out in the open air, under trees and streetlights, they talk, like really talk, not yelling, not arguing, but breaking it all down. The root of it all? Turns out, it wasn't about the baby. It was about outside voices. Her so-called friends, dripping in that toxic tradwife TikTok mindset, had convinced her that her value as a woman, as a wife, was tied to how many children she had, that this was her divine purpose, that anything less wasn't enough. Let that sink in. This woman, smart, kind, funny, creative, was doubting her worth because someone online told her motherhood was her only job. And the writer, he showed up for her. He didn't dismiss it. He didn't make it about himself. He reminded her of everything she is beyond being a mom. He told her, "You are more than a womb. You are a person, and your dreams, your identity, your happiness, that matters." So now, they're curled up on the couch, sharing popcorn and chocolate-covered almonds, watching a comedy, laughing again, reconnected, talking about golden retrievers and backyard gardens instead of bassinets and baby bottles. And that right there, that's real love. Not performative love, not social media love, but deep, grown-up, scarred, and healing kind of love. Love that says, "I see you," even when you're struggling to see yourself. So, was the writer the asshole for telling his wife he didn't want any more kids? Hell no. He was honest, clear, consistent, and when things got tense, he didn't run. He leaned in, he had the hard talk, and he reminded his wife that she is so much more than motherhood. So to all the couples out there wrestling with this, who gets to decide when the family is complete? What happens when your dreams evolve or clash? And how do you hold on to each other when life pushes you in opposite directions? This one's a reminder. The deepest love isn't in agreeing on everything. It's in facing the disagreement and still choosing each other anyway. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to draw the line in a relationship? What's your deal breaker and how did you navigate it? Let's talk. AITA, if I break up with my boyfriend for ruining my attorney swearing-in moment. This story isn't just about a ruined Zoom call, it's about a moment, one that should have felt like the sunrise after a long, hellish storm. But instead, it got stomped on in real time by someone who should have been your biggest supporter. So let's start from the top. The writer, 35 years old, female, didn't just go through law school, she survived it. Law school alone is brutal. It's pressure, it's long nights, it's sacrifices, but imagine layering on a cancer diagnosis right before you take the bar. Not a mild scare, not a maybe we caught it early. No, aggressive breast cancer. Let's pause on that. You just walked across the stage in May, cap still warm from graduation, and then bam, life grabs you by the throat. Chemo, surgery, radiation. While your classmates are prepping flashcards and memorizing case law, you're sitting in infusion rooms and bracing for biopsies. She postponed the bar exam to February, thinking she'd be past treatment by then. She wasn't. But she still took the damn thing anyway. 2 months out from surgery, in the middle of radiation treatment. No energy, no recovery time, still showing up because that's what real resilience looks like. And let's not pretend she breezed through. She didn't. She had to retake the bar. That stings. But when you're clawing your way back from the edge of life itself, passing at all is miraculous. And she did it. She freaking did it. Fast forward to now. The writer finally gets the notification. Her swearing in is happening. This is it. This is the finish line. All the nights crying in silence. The physical pain, the loss, the fear, the delays, the doubt, all of it was about to pay off. And life, being the cruel circus it is, throws another punch. Her dad has a heart attack and suffers 5 mini strokes. Her mom, stage 4 gastric cancer. Yeah, just let that settle in. She's literally surrounded by sickness, grief hospitals, and still trying to grab hold of one thing that's hers. Because of everything happening, she can't do the oath in person. So she goes to her parents' house to be near them and opts for the Zoom ceremony. Her boyfriend, who's 1.5 hours away, doesn't make the trip. Okay, maybe that part's complicated logistically, but they agree he'll FaceTime her during the ceremony. Simple, supportive, reasonable. So the ceremony begins. The judge is speaking. The atmosphere is heavy with significance. This is the moment that turns law school grad into licensed attorney. Her boyfriend is on FaceTime watching. She's focused. It's about to be her turn, and then he walks into a damn store. Not a dead zone, not an emergency, a store. The call drops, signal lost, and just 3 seconds later, it's her turn. It's happening. The moment after everything, and he's gone. But wait, It gets worse. He starts calling back again and again and again. Not once, not twice, but 6 times. And every single call triggers a notification on her laptop, because of course it does. It's Zoom. And now, instead of focusing on repeating her oath, the moment she fought life and death to reach is being shredded by constant pop-up rings and screen flashes. The judge notices. The writer's distracted. Her moment is tainted, visibly, audibly, emotionally. And this isn't just about a tech glitch. This is about the one person who was supposed to get it. The one person who knew how hard this journey had been, who agreed to support her in the exact way she asked. And not only did he drop the ball, he kicked it into traffic and kept calling while she was clearly ignoring him. At what point do you stop and think, wait, she's not answering, maybe I'm interrupting something important? Like, how do you not connect the dots after 2, 3, 4 missed calls? It's not just about being clueless. It feels willful. Maybe not malicious, but disrespectful. Tone deaf at best. And after everything she's endured, not just the academic struggle, not just the cancer, not just the family illness, this is how her triumph gets remembered. And let's not forget, the writer had even put her phone on Do Not Disturb. But technology failed her. Her boyfriend, he failed her harder. Now she's sitting there wondering if she's overreacting for wanting to end the relationship over this. But let's call it what it is. This wasn't just one bad moment. This was her moment. And he didn't just miss it. He ruined it. Not out of accident, but out of sheer inconsideration. So, is the writer the asshole for wanting to break up with him? No. 1,000 times no. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about respect, support, presence. And if your partner can't show up, really show up for you during one of the most defining, hard-earned moments of your life, then what are they even doing in your life? Because love isn't just saying, I'm proud of you. It's showing it. It's being there. It's stepping up, especially when you know the other person has been through hell just to get to the finish line. So what do you think? Was the writer right to draw the line here? Can you come back from something like this, or is it a deal breaker? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't hold back. Because sometimes the biggest red flag isn't in what someone says, but in where they are when it really counts. Stick around for more unfiltered Am I the Asshole stories right here on AITA Chronicles. Am I the asshole for leaving my boyfriend at the bar after he told the waitress I was his sister as a joke? Let's talk about just a joke. That phrase, harmless on the surface, has been the weapon of choice for people dodging accountability since forever. But when that joke comes at your expense, in public, repeatedly, it stops being funny. It starts chipping away at your dignity. And for this writer, that joke crossed a line that she couldn't unsee. So, here's what went down. The writer, 21 years old, has been dating this 27-year-old guy for about 8 months. At first glance, cute, charming. A little cocky, sure, but nothing unbearable. You know the type, flirty smirk, knows how to hold a room, probably thinks he's funnier than he actually is. But then there's a pattern, a habit, one that doesn't sit right. Whenever they're around other people, especially his people, he turns into a comedian. But not the kind that makes people laugh with him, more like at her. Like the time he called her a friend of a friend at a party, or when he pretended to forget her name in front of his buddy. That wasn't once, that wasn't twice, that's a routine. And every time she brings it up, it's just a joke, like her feelings are some overreaction, like his disrespect is some quirky personality trait. So last weekend, they're at a bar with his friends. Place is crowded, loud, normal weekend vibes. Then the waitress shows up and yeah, she's a little extra with him, smiling a bit too much, touching his arm like she's known him for years. That's not always a problem. Sometimes people flirt without realizing. Sometimes it's harmless. The writer, she brushes it off. She's not the jealous type. She plays it cool. But then she steps away to go to the bathroom, and when she comes back, she walks right into the punchline. The waitress is laughing, clearly entertained. Then she looks at the writer and says, "Your brother is hilarious." Like that wasn't a slap straight to the face. Wait, brother? Yeah. While she was gone, her boyfriend decided it would be hilarious to tell the waitress that the woman he's been dating for nearly a year is actually his sister. For fun, for laughs, to flirt maybe, or to not seem taken, or just to feel like he's the clever one in the room. Whatever the reason, he thought it was worth it. And when the writer confronts him, when she stares him dead in the face, waiting for some kind of explanation, he just smirks. No apology. No, I didn't mean it like that. Just the smug face of a guy who thinks he's being hilarious when really he's being humiliating. Again. So she did what a lot of people wouldn't have the guts to do. She left. Didn't argue. Didn't cause a scene. She just said cool, picked up her things, and walked the hell out. And honestly, that's power. That's control. That's respecting yourself when someone else won't. She Ubered home alone. And this dude, he didn't even follow. He didn't call her right away. He didn't show up apologizing. He texted, said she was being dramatic, said it was just a joke. Same tired defense. Same pattern. Same gaslighting disguised as humor. Now here's where it gets worse. His friends are messaging her saying she embarrassed him, that she's the one who made a scene, that walking out was childish. Even her own mom chimes in, telling her she should have played along, and that if she wants to keep a man, she needs to pick her battles. Let's stop right there. Let's talk about this idea that women should tolerate disrespect to keep a man, that they should laugh off humiliation to keep the peace, that being treated like a joke in public is normal, and walking away from that somehow makes you the problem. That thinking is broken, because the writer wasn't asking for a parade. She wasn't begging for PDA or loud declarations of love. She just wanted to be treated like a partner, like someone who matters, someone you don't lie about to strangers to score a cheap laugh. She sat through the party introduction. She stayed quiet when he forgot her name in front of friends. But this time, she reached her limit. So, is the writer the asshole for walking out? Not even close. She stood up for herself in the most direct way possible. She didn't throw a drink. She didn't scream. She didn't play his game. She walked away with her dignity. And that's not dramatic. That's clarity. Because love isn't built on inside jokes that only humiliate one person. And loyalty isn't tested by how many jokes you can take before you finally break. What do you think? Was the writer right to walk away, or should she have played along like everyone says? Is this just guy humor, or is it a red flag waving loud and clear? Sound off in the comments, and if you've ever had a partner who thought you were the punchline, this is your moment to speak. Stick around for more brutally honest Am I the Asshole stories, only on AITA Chronicles, where we don't flinch from the truth. Cashier, am I the asshole for my daughter's unhealthy packed lunch? All right, let's set the scene. You're a parent, not just any parent, but the kind of parent who's been through it, who's watched your child cry in pain as a baby, and who's fought tooth and nail just to get her to eat something, anything, without her tiny body rejecting it. We're talking years of managing stomach issues, picky eating, trial and error. Every bite of food feels like a small victory. Every clean lunchbox, even half-eaten, feels like progress. And then you walk into a school interview already stressed, probably tired. Because, let's be honest, parenting doesn't stop for a moment, and instead of being met with understanding, with compassion, you get judged. Let's rewind for a second. The writer packs her 7-year-old daughter's lunch every day with care. A yogurt, a sandwich, a packet of chips, a cheese stick, and yes, fruit. That is, when the fruit doesn't come home bruised, soggy, and untouched, because this little girl, like many kids, isn't eating it. And what's the point of wasting food and money when it's just going in the trash? And let's not forget, this child isn't just a picky eater. She has a history of digestive issues that go all the way back to before she even started eating solids. Literal medical problems. We're talking real pain, vomiting, screaming, a body that rejected food from the start. So what does the writer do? She adapts. She learns what her child can handle. Dry chips? If that's what keeps her stomach from twisting in knots, then dry chips it is. Yogurt and cheese? Great. A sandwich? That's a whole win. But then out of nowhere, the teacher swoops in like the food police. Not just quietly, not with discretion, but in front of the writer's daughter, telling her she better see more fruit in that lunchbox tomorrow and less packaged food. As if this little girl is walking into school with a bag of candy and soda every day. And it gets worse. The writer shares that she and her daughter have a little morning ritual. After dropping off the younger siblings, they go to the corner store and pick out a little treat together. A simple moment, a connection, a tiny slice of joy in a chaotic parenting life. And even that was criticized. The message wasn't just, we want to encourage healthy eating. No, the message was, you're a bad mom. But here's what people forget, especially the so-called well-meaning ones. Behind every lunchbox is a story. Behind every choice is a battle. And behind every child who eats half a sandwich and leaves the apple untouched is a mom or dad who is trying hard. Now let's get real. Could the writer have packed some carrot sticks? Maybe. But should she be shamed for not doing so when her kid literally won't touch them? Absolutely not. Could she offer fruit alternatives? Sure. But when your child associates food with pain, when your child has a long history of discomfort, you're not just feeding her, you're managing trauma. And for a teacher to insert herself into that with zero context and put that pressure directly on a 7-year-old, that's not helpful. That's not nurturing. That's irresponsible. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely, positively not. She's a mother doing what mothers do best, surviving, adapting, and doing her damn best with what she's got. If anything, she's earned more credit than she's being given, because parenting is already full of guilt trips. And the last thing any of us need is someone judging what we put in a lunchbox without understanding what that lunchbox represents. Behind every chip, a memory of a baby crying through the night in pain. Behind every skipped apple slice, a dozen wasted ones before. Behind that one cookie after school, a little moment of joy between a mom and her daughter who've already been through enough. So what do you think? Was the teacher out of line? Should schools take a gentler, more individualized approach when it comes to children's diets? And where do we draw the line between healthy advice and just plain parent shaming? Let's talk about it below, because this one isn't just about lunch. It's about parenting in the real world when nothing is simple and everything is done out of love. I didn't let my husband eat my sandwich. Sounds simple, right? Just a sandwich. One bite. One little bite. But, oh, if only it were that simple. This story, it's not about deli meat and bread. It's about boundaries, about being heard, and about the slow, quiet erosion of respect in a relationship that's gone on autopilot. So let's set the scene. The writer and her husband are chilling on the couch. Casual, laid back, no drama in the air yet. The writer gets hungry and, like any sane person, starts thinking about that one perfect spot they both love. A sandwich shop, a go-to, a comfort place. And here's where the test begins. 3 times. That's how many times the writer asks her husband if he wants one too. Not once, not even twice. 3 times. And every single time he says no, because, as he so confidently puts it, he's not hungry. He just had breakfast. He's good. So the writer places the order for her sandwich, her meal, her craving, her choice. The food arrives and she cuts off a little piece to snack on, planning to graze on it slowly. Why? Because she's not a big eater all at once. And guess what? Her husband knows this. They've been together 10 years, a whole decade. He knows her habits. He knows her limits. He knows exactly how food works in their relationship. So she takes one bite, just one. Here he comes. Oh, I want a bite of that. Excuse me? Sir, you said no 3 times. You had your shot. You passed. But suddenly, now that he smells it, now that he sees it in her hand, it's a different story. Hunger magically appears. Now here's the thing. She still shares. 3 bites, in fact. 3 full, generous, probably cheese-dripping bites. That's not nothing. And then she sets the boundary. Go ahead and order your own. That's fair, right? That's more than fair. It's logical, respectful, even kind. But this man decides to throw a fit because she won't give up more of her meal. The meal she planned, the one she asked him to join in on, the one she tried to include him in. And let's not forget, he already got 3 damn bites. But no, now he wants another. And when she says no, all hell breaks loose. Suddenly she's crazy. A selfish hypocrite. He digs up every shared meal from the last 2 weeks like some petty culinary historian, trying to prove he's always been the generous one, as if that gives him a right to bulldoze over her plate today. Let's talk about that word. Hypocrite. It's a heavy one, and he throws it out like it costs nothing. But here's the truth. This isn't hypocrisy. This is someone enforcing their own boundary in a moment where they already made a concession. The real issue here is entitlement, the kind that creeps into long relationships when one person stops taking no seriously. When one person hears, "I don't want to share this," and thinks it's just a suggestion, not a hard line. And now, they're not speaking, over a sandwich. But again, it's not about the sandwich. It's about being ignored. It's about not being taken seriously. It's about having to justify something that should be respected the first time it's said. The writer literally has to hide snacks because he'll eat them before she gets a chance. That's not funny. That's not quirky. That's disrespectful. It's not about appetite. It's about control. It's the kind of stuff that piles up over years and suddenly cracks open in moments like this. And let's be real here. If the roles were reversed and she started stealing bites off his plate every time he said no, would this man be so generous? Or would it turn into a different kind of argument? So now she's left sitting in silence, wondering if she's the bad guy for saying no, for protecting her own damn sandwich after already giving a third of it away. So, is the writer the asshole for not sharing more of her food? Absolutely not. She was clear, she was generous, she even offered a solution. And instead of respecting that, her husband threw a tantrum and turned it into a silent war. This isn't a sandwich problem, it's a respect problem. And if something as small as food boundaries turns into emotional warfare, then there's something much bigger under the surface that needs fixing. So what do you think? Was the writer right to say no? Or should she have just given him another bite to keep the peace? Have you ever had a moment like this in your own relationship where the small things reveal something way deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get real about how much just one bite can say about someone's character. Stick around for more unfiltered AMI the Asshole stories, only here on AITA Chronicles. Am I the asshole for calling off my birthday weekend trip because I don't want my stepsister there? All right, buckle in, because this one is messy in the way only blended family drama can be. It's not just about a ruined hoodie or a canceled cabin trip. This is about boundaries, respect, and the kind of silent war that brews when you're forced to share space with someone who refuses to understand that family isn't something you can just slap a label on. Let's start with the writer, a 16-year-old guy, almost 17. That age where you're expected to act like an adult while still being treated like a kid. Already a hard line to walk, but throw in a parent's remarriage and a new step-sibling who shows zero respect, that's a powder keg just waiting for a spark. 4 years ago, Ryder's mom married Carl, and with Carl came Megan, a now 15-year-old who split her time between her mom's house and their home. And from day one, it wasn't good. Now look, nobody expects step-siblings to instantly be best friends, but bare minimum, there's gotta be mutual respect. And Megan, she didn't get that memo. This girl wasn't just annoying, she was straight up invasive. We're talking yanking the controller mid-game, unplugging the TV while Ryder was playing on his late dad's PS2, snatching snacks, trying to take money, making the simplest of outings into a power struggle. Let's pause right there. You've got a teenage boy who's already grieving the loss of his dad, trying to preserve something as simple but as personal as gaming on his dad's console. And Megan? She just pulls the plug, literally. That's not annoying. That's disrespectful on a whole other level. But it didn't stop there. Megan pushed her way into Ryder's room constantly, and when she wasn't barging in, she was inviting her friends over and trying to break into his space. Yes, break into his bedroom and closet. It got so bad that the mom had to buy locks, and even that didn't stop her. She took food off his plate. She got weird around his friends. She flirted with them, tried to kiss them. She even tried to force the writer to date her best friend and dropped gay slurs when he said no. Then, when she found out he was gay, she lost her mind, not out of concern or love, but because he hadn't told her. She threw a tantrum because, in her mind, being family meant she was entitled to that part of him. That's the word that keeps coming up here: entitlement. She feels entitled to his space, to his things, to his friends, to his life. And now, she wants to be part of his birthday weekend, the one weekend where he gets to feel seen, celebrated, and safe with his actual friends. But Mom says Megan has to come. Not only that, she pushes the entire trip back by a week so Megan can be there, because apparently her attendance matters more than the writer's actual birthday. You can almost feel the frustration dripping from every sentence. This isn't just about a party. This is about years of boundaries being bulldozed, of being told to just deal with it, of being called dramatic when the reality is you've been chronically unheard. So, writer pulls the plug, he cancels the whole thing, tells his friends the trip's off, and decides to make other plans. And Mom? She calls it a temper tantrum. But let's be real, this wasn't a tantrum. This was the writer finally choosing peace over politeness. Finally choosing himself after being forced to play Big Brother to a girl who's spent 4 years stomping on his space and his identity. And you know what? It's about time. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely, positively, no. He didn't lash out, he didn't start a war, he simply said, if she's coming, I'm not doing it. That's not cruelty, that's survival. That's someone finally drawing a line after years of being told their boundaries don't matter. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is say, what do you think? Was canceling the whole thing justified? Or should the writer have just suffered through one more weekend of chaos for the sake of family? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this one's got layers and we need to unpack every single one. Am I the asshole for what I said when our kids walked in on us? And now my wife's mad? All right, this story, it's the perfect cocktail of embarrassment, panic, and the kind of parenting nightmare no one ever really prepares you for. The writer, just a regular parent trying to survive married life and raise twin 6-year-old boys, was having a moment. A real grown-up, intimate, and no kids in sight moment with his wife. And let's just say things were getting involved. But suddenly, bam, door open. The twins charge in like they always do, completely oblivious to what they've just walked into. Except this time, it's not cartoons or snacks. Nope, it's their dad with his face somewhere no child expects to see it. And these two kids, they didn't whisper, they didn't sneak away, they screamed, "Ew, daddy's kissing mommy's butt." Instant, full volume, kid-style panic. And the writer, his brain short circuits. What do you even say to that? How do you salvage that situation with your dignity intact? You don't. Not really. But in that split second of full-blown shock, the writer blurts out the first thing his panicked dad brain could grasp. No, I'm checking for bugs on mommy's butt. Yeah, you read that right. Bugs on mommy's butt. And the kids? They bought it. Sort of. At least enough to leave the room without more screaming. But of course, because kids are tiny chaos agents, they didn't forget it. Oh no, they remembered it too well. Cut to family gatherings, friends over for dinner, random errands in public, and out of nowhere, one of the twins casually drops, "Daddy was checking for bugs in mommy's butt." Shh. Over and over and over, innocently, loudly, repeatedly. And now, the writer's wife is furious. Not because the moment happened, not even because they forgot to lock the door, which, by the way, they usually do. No, she's furious because this has become the quote of the year for their sons. It's now their favorite punchline. And the wife, she's not laughing. And to make it worse, the writer went to Reddit for advice, to see if he was the villain in this absurd sitcom plotline. Turns out most commenters thought he wasn't. They understood the panic. They sympathized with the check for bugs and defense mechanism. It was dumb, yes, but also kind of genius in its desperation. So the writer, feeling vindicated, decides to show the wife the post. The proof. The internet has spoken. He's not the bad guy. Except now, she's mad all over again. Because he aired out their business online. And you know what? That might be fair, but at the same time, what else do you do when your kids have basically turned your bedroom blunder into a public announcement? Let's zoom out. Was the writer wrong for forgetting to lock the door? Sure, that's parenting 101. Was he wrong for panicking and saying something wildly weird in the heat of the moment? Honestly, probably not. Could he have just gone with "Mommy has a boo-boo"? Maybe. Would the kids still have shouted about it in front of grandma? Absolutely. That's just what kids do. So, is the writer the asshole? Nah, not even close. He was just a dad trying to explain the unexplainable, caught in the most awkward moment of his marriage, with two tiny witnesses and no time to think. And now he's got a viral level story, a wife who's officially done with his damage control strategies, and twin boys who will probably keep telling strangers about the mysterious butt bugs until they're teenagers. So, what would you have said if your kids walked in on you like that? Was the writer's response stupid or just stupidly brilliant? Let's talk about it in the comments. Because let's be honest, this is one of those the asshole stories that could only happen in real life. And somehow every parent knows the exact kind of chaos. Stick around for more real, messy, awkward, and unforgettable stories, only on Tate. AITA for saying my special birthday dinners aren't special for me and I don't want them anymore. So here's the thing. Birthday dinners are supposed to be about you. It's the one damn day a year where you're not just a background character in your own life. But for this writer, year after year, that special moment got swallowed up by a family dynamic that didn't leave any space for him at all. Let's rewind. The writer, a 16-year-old kid, has been stuck in a food prison since he was 7, ever since his mom remarried and blended their family with his stepdad and 2 step-siblings. Sounds normal, right? Except both step-siblings have food allergies, peanuts, dairy, shellfish, you name it. So the family went full-on allergen-free, not just at home, everywhere. Restaurants, takeout, birthdays, celebrations, you get the picture. The house became a fortress of food restriction. Now, before we go any further, yes, allergies are serious. Yes, accommodations are important, but here's where things start to get twisted. The writer doesn't have allergies, but he's treated like he does. No dairy, no pizza, no chocolate, no fries, unless you count sweet potato fries, which honestly should be illegal on birthdays. Everything revolves around keeping things safe for everyone else, even if that means the birthday boy goes hungry or eats with a fake smile while pushing limp vegetables around his plate. And here's the kicker. There are other nut-free, safe restaurants. The writer did the research, found options, suggested them, even begged for them. But nope, mom and stepdad wouldn't budge. They've got their one safe place, and it's too much work to try anything else, too much work for his birthday. Let that sink in. So year after year, the writer is dragged to the same place he hates, watching everyone else enjoy while he counts the minutes. He's told to smile, be grateful, be appreciative of the family meal that makes him feel like an outsider in his own celebration. Told that some families can't afford to eat out, as if that excuses making his birthday feel like a punishment. It finally boiled over last year when he turned 15. He snapped. He snapped, and who wouldn't? He told his mom the truth. He hated the food, the place, the routine. That it wasn't special for him, and why should he be punished for his step-siblings' allergies? And then comes the classic guilt trip. What about their feelings? What about the stepdad's hurt? What about keeping the family united? You know what no one asked? What about him? This year, the writer made a bold move. He said no. No more fake birthday dinners. No more sitting through celebrations that feel like funerals. He told them all straight, I don't want it anymore. Not the meal, not the performance, not the guilt. He didn't even want to acknowledge his birthday under those conditions. And you know what? His extended family respected that. No one showed. Not out of spite, but because they finally understood how deeply unhappy he was. But now, the parents are angry. They say he's being this way. His mom's playing the step-family card as if that somehow explains it all. But honestly, this would be messed up even if it weren't a blended family. Let's be brutally honest here. Who wants to eat food they hate on their birthday just to make everyone else feel comfortable? Imagine blowing out candles over a meal that makes your stomach turn, all while people guilt you for not smiling wide enough. This isn't just about food. It's about being seen. It's about finally drawing a line and saying, my comfort matters too. So, is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. This isn't a tantrum. It's not entitlement. It's a teenager asking for just one day, a few hours even, where he gets to be the priority. And the fact that he's being painted as the villain for speaking up, that says more about the family dynamics than it does about him. And if you've ever had to sit quietly while your own needs got pushed aside for the greater good, this one probably hit home. Let us know what you think. Was the writer right to finally put his foot down? Or was there a better way to reclaim his birthday? Drop your take in the comments. And don't forget, sometimes speaking up feels uncomfortable, but it's the first step toward being heard. Stay tuned for more AITA chaos right here at AITA Chronicles.